Hello, welcome to the Unit 5 of Principles of Economics. Under Unit 5, we are going to look at demand and supply elasticities and their application. We are going to talk about 6 different sessions, and sessions are still going to be centered on elasticities. The first session, which is this session, looks at the concept of elasticity. Section 2, we talk about own price elasticity of demand. Section 3, we talk about determinants and applications of price elasticity of demand. Section 4, we talk about cross price elasticity of demand. Section 5 will be income elasticity of demand. And section 6 will be elasticity of supply. Now, in this very session, you will learn how to tackle questions such as, if the supply of good falls, its prices rises, but by how much? Okay, that's the questions we are going to be tackling. And you are going to learn how the responsiveness of quantities bought and sold to changes in prices and other influences on buyers or sellers are measured. And so by the end of this session, we believe you should be able to define elasticity, define it, and be able to distinguish between demand and supply elasticities and explain how elasticity is what measured. So let's get started. What is elasticity? What is elasticity? Actually, the most commonly used measure of the strength of the relationship between two economic variables is called what? Elasticity. So we are talking about elasticity means a measure of the strength of the relationship. So assuming we say the relationship between two variables is say 0 point something something. What is the strength of that relationship? So that is what we are talking about. Measure of the strength of a relationship between two economic variables. So in general, elasticity may also be thought of as a ratio of the percentage change in some dependent variable to the percentage change in a particular independent variable. All these things we are saying when we should bring some algebraic analysis or some numerical examples, you may understand more. Now, for example, the responses of two main economic variables, quantity demanded and quantity supplied of a product, to changes in the other variables like price and income that influence them. This is what leads to the elasticity. These are referred to as demand elasticity and the what? Supply elasticity. These things lead to elasticity. Now, for demand elasticity, we may actually consider 3 important variables that influence the demand function. We may consider 3 important variables that influence the demand function. Now, these variables are the own price of the product. What is the price of the product? Look at the consumer's disposable income. How much does the consumer have to, consume or spend on goods? And we look at the price of related products. I want to buy Coke, but what is the price of Pepsi? We look at all these things. These things, influence the demand function, and we have to take them into consideration when we are looking at the demand elasticity. Okay, so we can compute the own price elasticity of demand, which relates to changes in quantity demand to change in own price of the commodity. So, talking about demand elasticity, when we are looking at the factors that influence them, we talked about the home price, the consumer's disposable income, we talked about price of other related goods. So, the on price elasticity of demand relates the change in quantity demand to change in own price of the good, right, of the commodity. Now, the cross price elasticity of demand measures the sensitivity of change in the quantity demand for one product due to change in price of another. We are talking about relative price or price of related product. That leads us, or that brings the cross price elasticity of demand. And talking about the consumers' disposable income, the influence of that, income elasticity of demand assesses the change in the quantity demanded of a product resulting from change in the consumer's income. Change in the consumer's income. Now, when you actually become thoroughly acquainted with the concept of on-price elasticity of demand, you will find that you have very little trouble understanding the price elasticity of supply. So kindly pay attention here as we go through. Now, the transition requires no more than the substitution of the words quantity supply for the words quantity demand. So, if you understand this, I don't want to say I bet you, but I can assure you that you understand when we get to the elasticity of supply. Now, we want to look at how to measure elasticity. Economists measure the degree of elasticity with the coefficient defined as, I'm going to write here. We write something like this: E equal to percentage change in the dependent variable. So percentage change in dependent variable, assuming Y is a dependent variable, divided by percentage change in the independent variable, let's say X. Alright. Now these percentage changes are calculated by dividing the change in the variable by its original value. When I say percentage change in Y, what is percentage change in Y? Percentage change in Y is given by the change in Y divided by the original value. We can multiply by 100 so that we have the percentage change. Now percentage change in X is given by change in X over the original value of X, that is X naught. So having this and this, and we know that the elasticity is what? Change in the percentage change in Y over percentage change in X. Now we are going to link this to this, means that we are going to have change in Y over Y divided by change in X over X. Now in mathematics, we can turn this division sign, but when we turn the division sign into multiplication, we have to swap this part. So this can be change in Y over Y times X over change in what? X. In mathematics, multiplication is commutative. When I say commutative, I say that AB is the same as what? BA. So if I have this change in Y over Y and X over change in X, this I can write it as change in Y times 1 over Y times X times 1 over change in X. I can now further make it change in Y times 1 over change in X times 1 over Y times X, so that I'll treat this and treat this as change in Y over change in X. And multiplying X over what? Y. Because if I have A over 1 times 1 over C, the numerators multiplied with the denominators multiply. I have A times 1 and what? 1 times C, giving me A over C. That is why this gives us this and this gives us this. So this is what you should have in mind for elasticity. So it is change in Y over change in X times X over y times x over y. The y, change in y is the change in dependent variable y, change in x is change in independent variable x, and y is the original y naught. Let me make it not. We are making the y naught. X naught is the original value of x, and the y naught is the original value of y. Original value of y. So all these are original values. Okay. So the question that comes into our mind obviously is, why use percentages rather than absolute amount in measuring responsiveness? The answer is very simple. Now let's assume the price of a product falls from 300 cedis to 2 cedis, and consumers increase their purchases from 60 kg to 100 kg. Now it may appear that consumers are very sensitive to price changes. After all, the price change of one unit has caused a change in the amount of demand demanded of 40 units. So by changing the monetary units from cedis to pesos, we find that a price change in 100 units, that will be say 300 pesos to 200 pesos, causes a quantity change of 40 units, and giving the impression of very little sensitivity. Now, using percentage changes avoid this problem. The particular price decline is going to be around say 33%, whether measured in terms of cedis or pesos. So I was saying maybe we want to change the price to say 3, let me write it here, 3 to 2. We can say that okay, the difference is going to be something like 1 over 3. This 1 over 3 will be in terms of cedis, or maybe I'll turn it to pesos, 100 pesos over 3 pesos.